We're live. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good Sunday morning. You know, this is April Jackson with Sunday Safe Spaces with Open Up Pittsburgh. And I always kind of want to share that it's 10:20 and we said we're going to start at 10 o'clock. But you know how we do in our culture. We want to respect the culture. So we started at 10:20. And I am really excited to be here with Jeff Belair. Welcome, Jeff. Thank
How
you
you
for.
guys doing? How you guys
Oh,
doing?
God. So happy to have you on this morning.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Wesley Hamilton has spoken so highly of you. And I'm excited to share this space. You're kind of sitting in his window space right now. Big
Yeah,
chair to fill, big shoes to fill right now.
yeah, for sure. Big shoes, big shoes.
Um, Listen, this is Spinal Cord Injury Awareness Month, everybody. And, Wesley and I really felt it's important to recognize and understand that there are so many different disabilities, and not everyone who is sitting in a wheelchair has the same disability. And, when we see people, we want to see the wholeness of them. And so, with it being Spinal Cord Injury Awareness Month, we're going to, put that stuff in the newsletter, but we're also going to talk about it too. So I have this handsome, wonderful human being sitting here sharing space with me. And I just want to give him the space to one, just like introduce himself. And then we're going to talk a bit about spinal cord injury. And also, Jeff is willing to like share his story and give us a bit about himself. He's a motivational speaker. He is a powerful force who's been very influential in the community and even beyond just
Yeah,
where
yeah,
you are.
for
And
sure.
so we're pleased to have him on this platform. So, Mr. Jeff Belair, can you have the floor? Tell us a bit about yourself.
All right, all right. How you guys doing today? I'm 29. My name is Jeff Belair. I'm from Kansas. I grew up in Topeka and Lawrence, Kansas, about split about halfway. So, what's going on, Wes?
Good morning.
But just introducing myself, I just turned 29 September. I was suffered a gunshot wound in 2012. Um, which was my technically my senior year in high school, but it ended up being my freshman year in college. I left high school early to go play football. So, in the midst of going home one weekend, a tragic accident happened with a gunshot wound to several gunshot wounds to my legs, and it put me in a wheelchair. And it's been a journey, but we're here right now and feeling good. So,
I am so glad you're here. I have chills going through my body,
yeah,
and they're chills more of excitement and joy.
yeah, most definitely, most definitely.
Um, and my heart, like, look, I've never shown emotion on here, Wes, right? You never see me cry. I am an emotional human being, but my eyes welled up because, as I shared in the beginning, just when you're introducing yourself and stuff, I have three black boys, three
Yes,
black
ma'am.
men,
Yes, ma'am.
and two of mine suffered injuries their senior year. This is what I related to:
Wow,
their
wow.
senior year of high school and the beginning, that transition into their freshman year of college. So your story is absolutely unique, and this is kind of and it was from football.
Wow, wow. Yeah, that's I know that's yeah, it resonates. I know that resonates right with a lot of black moms, black children in America, and that's something that I feel like this platform is good for, so people can hear the stories from not just my side, but the mother side and what they go through with black children, with being harmed and going through the trauma that we go through.
Ooh, you said the key word right there, trauma, right, Wes?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Wes.
Wes, did you hear my introduction when I said we totally respected the culture by starting at 10:20?
Yes,
Oh
yes,
man.
yes. Always. It's always
Right,
a vibe.
right. I was sharing I was in a talk, and Jeff, I'm gonna bounce it to you, but this again goes back to our culture. I was in doing a talk, DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, justice for a company, and one of the people's like, everybody, you have to be polite, you need to be on time. It's very important that you're on time. And I shared with them like there is that element of respect. And in Black culture and brown culture, like I'm pretty sure in a lot of Indian cultures, it is a sign of disrespect. Show up early,
Yeah, yeah.
like you
Oh,
want
for
to
real?
honor. Mm-hmm.
I didn't
It's
know
a
that.
sign
I
of
didn't know that.
disrespect to show up early, and I have friends who are Ghanaian. Do not show up at the party when the party is starting at 4 o'clock. Just
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
do
for
that.
sure.
So we're
Yeah, like what is this person doing here so early? Like, oh no, like I don't need no help. Like,
Yeah, what you looking for, man, around here? What you looking at?
but
come
but
back in an hour.
Yeah.
but April, that kind of makes me go right into something real quick. When we talk about time and we talk about like being on time to events and things. Me and Jeff, we both have a spinal cord injury, and this is something we talk about all the time. It's like it's crazy how we're expected to be prompt and on time for everything and every event, just like everybody else, knowing that it takes us 10 times more, you know, in in any activity that we have to do, rather it's driving or getting a transportation, getting in and out of a vehicle. April, like the process, right? Like because we experienced it when I was in Pittsburgh,
Yes.
and and so I always tell people, I'm not just on CP time. I'm on
Yeah.
wheelchair people time too.
Yeah, it's different.
You
It's
know, like
different.
you gotta add up. Me, I could pull up to the function on time. But what if it's raining, right? Like, what if it's
Yeah,
raining
Exactly.
and so can I hop out and run to the door like everybody else, or
exactly.
if that process is going to have me soaking wet and then I still had to be on time,
Yeah.
right? Like, and then people are looking like or we get in there late and then like the wheelchairs are squeaking and stuff, and you hear it's like coming in, like
Yeah, yeah,
we can't even creep in,
yeah. No, we
right?
can't creep. The creeping days is over. That's over with. That's over with.
I got a friend. They like, oh, you getting in the squeaky chair? I'm like, oh man,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's the comfortable one though.
yeah.
When
I
I
think it's the wheels, man. Is it the air wheels that are different than like the tread wheels, or what is it about that? Because my air wheels always make way more noise, man. They know when I'm coming.
Man,
And they probably know
I,
what I'm talking about. They like tread and air, but it's just something that we deal with in the community, and it's just like two different wheels,
yeah, and it makes
So
a big difference.
yeah, it
but man,
does.
listen, Jeff. I'm telling you, when I was with April in Pittsburgh, not only did we experience like the rain and what that looks
And
like,
storm.
breaking down the chair, my tire was flat. So then I had to go to a bike shop and they really couldn't assist. And then like, man, so again, it was like I came for an event. I was there to be prompt and be able to host and do these things. And then
Mhm.
life hit me in a place where
Right,
I really had no control over it. Right.
right.
So it's like when we talk about like Spinal Cord Injury Awareness Month, it's making people aware of these things. Like my
Most definitely.
body physically was cool,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
but the mobility device that I have that I use every day wasn't operational. So at that time, we were stuck. And then say we figured it out, got into the event, 30 minutes in, it's the craziest
Biggest
thunderstorm.
storm.
Like
That
I
noise that
Yeah,
like
yeah.
sweat are flying around.
like dude, they had to get tarps for people that were in like power chairs. You know what I mean?
Man, that's
And
crazy. That's
because
crazy.
that's how bad it was. Like we tucked over in the corner and was still soaking wet. And so again, like that's one of those things. Like, yeah, we took cover, but if you notice, most people in wheelchairs had to go where they could.
Yeah.
We couldn't just run into a building and do things. And that's kind of like the thing I'll be trying to make people aware. It's like, yeah, we live our lives independently,
Most
but there
definitely.
are definitely barriers at every turn,
Yeah.
of just trying to live, right?
Just
Like,
trying to wake up and just have a regular day. I just came from the bike shop yesterday, Wes, down here in Tampa, Florida, and it took way longer than it would somewhere back home. The first couple places didn't have the size tire. I'm like, yo, I'm pushing on the flat, Tampa, Florida. It's crazy, man, and it's not. That's like our outfit. That's like part of our outfit. It's our legs, I guess you would say now. So when
Right.
you got an injured leg or your leg's messed up or you got a messed up ankle, it's a little hard to move around, and that's how I kind of use that to compare the things is the ankle, the chair, the wheels. It's kind of like it is our assist. So I know exactly what you mean. It's like everything could be good with my body and my mental, but if this chair is messed up, that's gonna alter whatever I got going or what I'm trying to do for the day. So.
I'm so glad you shared, like, this is a part of me and my being and my success and mobility. Because that's been a big issue too when we talk about flying and how, they're just like throwing people's wheelchairs around and breaking their wheelchairs and not giving a crap. And this is why we do this, Jeff. We want to bring awareness to others because the intention is, hopefully, if you know better, you do better.
You do better, yeah, for sure.
And we don't have a space just to talk about this. So we want to be able to like talk about it.
No, I think it's the dopest thing. Me and Wes, I'm pretty sure before our incidents, we didn't really look at people in wheelchairs the way that we do now. I mean, I was an athlete. Wes was in the streets. Like we weren't, unless we had a family member, we didn't know about none of this stuff. You know what I mean? So, waking up that day with my body and my tubes in me and everything being so different, I had to like basically start a new life from that day, the day of that injury. A lot of that, I'm not going to say that stuff doesn't matter, but it's the past. And now we're dealing with our bodies in these chairs. So it's a big transition. And I think every day, this is not something you ever can really get used to. You just adapt to, right? It's not something that I can say, I can get used to a tire being flat and I'm pushing in a city and I'm on and you can hear the grinding from the chair and there's no air in it. There's the type of things that if you let it can literally ruin your day sometimes,
Yeah.
So,
that's something I wanted to talk about. So we're really big on, mindfulness and mental health, like overall wellness. What tools have you used, like from the time that you said you're at the party, you get shot, you wake up the next day, like what resources, what tools did you use mentally and mindfully, even if you didn't think of it at the time as being mindfulness? Like, how did you overcome that even to this point? What are some practices? What are some things that you've done?
Well, so when I was 15, I was actually stabbed 7 times. And I had went through something traumatic way before that. So subconsciously, I just kind of went into survival mode. And at first, it was like I was trying to be so tough. I didn't want anyone to see me down. I didn't want anybody to see me that I was going through or that I was hurt. So I would portray this. But I was saying like actually releasing myself and allowing myself to cry was like the biggest thing that I could have did for myself as like a Black man, because I needed to know that it was okay to be weak. I wouldn't say weak, but it was okay to show those weaker sides of myself to my family and my friends that cared about me. It didn't have to be this persona. So I tapped into like emotions. I tapped into my real emotions and emotions that I had when I wasn't as strong. And I really latched on to the people that cared about me and the people that were there for me. Hello. And the people that, just my family and friends. That was a big thing that I think we tapped into, so.
Yeah. And you mentioned, you guys gonna have me laid out crying up in here. So at 15, and for you and Wes, because I'm a Black woman, I'm not a Black man. And I think it's important to identify our differences and to recognize them. You know what I mean? And in masculine culture, my understanding, of course, is like, don't be vulnerable. Don't show people that you're weak. And that is represented through crying, through having a tantrum or whatever. And like to know at 15, you already knew that and you were at 15?
Yeah, 15.
So like, how do you talk to young men who are at that point now?
Well, see, I try to relate to them. I mentored about 4 or 5 kids at the juvenile correction facility in Topeka as KJCC. And I didn't do as much mentoring as I would have liked because of COVID and going in there, but I was able to speak and meet with a few of them on occasions, give them books and stuff. And relating to them is the biggest thing. You got somebody telling you what to do all day. They don't want to hear that. I was actually in that facility as well as a youngster. So you don't want somebody coming and telling you what it is you need to be doing. It's the best when you can relate to somebody and say, man, I've been there. I've been in your situation. And people want to hear that. They want to hear somebody that went through this situation and made it out of this, because that's a difference between a guard just coming and telling you, hey, you're not doing right, you're not doing good. That's not going to register with the kid at 15 or 16 that's probably been through trauma as well. You know what I mean? So just relating, I would say, is the big thing. And I think me and Wes, we've been through that background. So when we sit down with kids, we're able to relate to them on a level that other people aren't. And it makes it easy for them to talk to us, easy for them to open up to us. And it makes them want to meet up with us again and have these conversations. So.
Oh my gosh, trauma.
Trauma.
That's a key word. Like, there's so much trauma, and I reflect on like COVID, and like there's worldwide trauma. But again, when we talk about this is our safe space, like as a community, a collective community, there are so many, probably 98% of African Americans, we are born, well, we're born into trauma. 100% of us are born into trauma because we're descendants of slavery.
Yeah, for sure.
And to me, to be expected, like how we're talking about, to be expected to live up to this norm of people who, one, weren't born into slavery, two, aren't having to deal with the trauma of the streets, three, are able-bodied.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's a lot.
It's a lot. That is a lot. And I think that the more that we like start to have these conversations that we're having, and we all come together and we start saying, hey, there is a problem, there is a problem, there is trauma there, and figure out what it is that we need to do to fix trauma, to fix these problems. That's going to be probably the biggest thing that we can do, is just say that there's even trauma there, because so many people, like you said, they'll put on this persona that there's no trauma there, there's no issue there. And I think that if we can just say that there's trauma there, that's the first step of like getting past it, or getting through it, or just coping with it. I don't know if you can get past it, but to at least cope with it on a good level, you know?
Yeah.
I'd say, there's just a lot of generations that have tried to suppress the trauma, prior to us. Like, I think we're just in a generation that we can become more open, transparent, even vulnerable. Social media has given that leverage. But, like when you think about people with the spinal cord injury, and you think about like all of these different traumas, majority of minorities, that acquire like a gunshot, or, that do something, let's say violence wise, only half of that number and that rate, are that die, right? Majority, the other half probably have a spinal cord injury, some type of injury sustained. They get PTSD, things like this. Anxiety, right? Because once you get your life change, now you might be scared to even go into a room full of people.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's crazy that as Black people, we are still, it's kind of like people are blind to the daily trauma that we have to face, because and then having our injury, right? So what I'm getting to is that you get a lot of people with spinal cord injury that really rarely go out, especially if they're with a minority background, because of all of the trauma that you face daily. Like it's things that is like it gets brought back up to you. You could be trying to live independently, and the trauma of racism and things like that hit you real quick and remind you, just because now someone probably treats you a little bit worse because you represent two things that they look down on. And so, and I used to be this person where you would go out and you would kind of look at yourself and think of like being less than, right? And again, it goes into the mental health thing. So the trauma just adds another layer to your mental health, but we don't get served the proper things for people to actually understand how to help us when it comes to mental health as Black people, right? Because they don't even know how to, like, I hear people play around with PTSD and anxiety and all these different terms every day, and they've been served with all of this. And I look at my community and wish that if they were diagnosed with these same things, they would actually probably operate and move differently.
Right.
You know, like life for them would probably be more understandable for them that they could move. But instead, we got a whole community of people that aren't even aware of these things. So when we acquire injury, we have all these
Yeah.
triggers from our past life, triggers from our new life. And so then it's like, how do we find that healing?
Yeah.
Right. And so you got people like me and Jeff that's really just found that healing through our journey,
Yeah.
you
Right.
know, and like Jeff said, he nailed it. You know, it's every day is full of adversity. It's just like you got to adapt to it. And it's crazy that's you have to even adapt to the fact that there are layers of trauma and triggers and daily things that would trigger that trauma.
Yeah.
And you got to find a way to control that trauma because your position is going to constantly cause a trigger.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
You know, like you go. I was just somewhere earlier and I parked, and somebody parked where I couldn't get in the car.
Man.
Right. So I'm like, that's triggering, right? Like that's something again that's like trauma.
It's so small. It's so small to some people, bro. But it's like to us, it's like, nah, I really can't get in my car right now.
Yeah, like there's no way possible.
No, I gotta either get to the back door, the trunk. If your trunk goes all the way, it's stuff like that. Where you're like, what is this? Why do you gotta go? Like, it'll throw you off a little bit if you haven't been through it. You know?
Yeah.
It'll throw you off.
So just kind of wanted to share that because I think, you know, the power of us being on this call is that we can speak from a different place. And when you think about, you know, I always tell people like, you know, we get affected by watching, you know, gun violence every day, rather it's black on black violence or, you know, some type of hate violence, right? Like we're affected by it all and it's triggering.
Yeah.
You know, so having an injury and dealing with the PTSD and say you got shot, right? Like you already got those things, but say you didn't get shot, because even though me and Jeff have been shot, there are a lot of black individuals that have acquired their injury from different things, but are basically stereotyped in the sense that they were shot.
Yeah.
Because
that's a good point.
You know, so again, that's triggering too. Because now, you know, I just worked with a young kid and he was in a car accident. And that was one of the things. He said, my mom fought so hard to make sure that I wasn't in the streets for me to acquire my disability. And now people assume I was in the streets.
That's crazy.
Like, you know, so again, that's traumatizing. And think about how many people deal with that, or someone that could have been innocent and not behind a gun, you know. And so again, when we think about spinal cord injury, it's such a large community of people that are always left out of that conversation because the conversation becomes triggering to most people because there's so many layers, right? And especially if you're a minority.
Most
Gosh,
definitely.
I think about that when you think about like that whole idea, like, oh, you're in a wheelchair, you must have been you must have been in a gang.
Oh man.
You must have been throwing out a gun, you must have been that. And I don't know if they would say, I do know, if you were white or you're Asian,
it's not the same.
It's not the same. Now, if you were Latino or Black, I think, and I grew up in Los Angeles, California. West.
Yeah, shout out LA.
My family, he knows where
shout out LA, man.
I live in Pittsburgh, but you know, people look at me, they don't understand. Like when we talk about Crenshaw, I grew up on Crenshaw, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so that's infuriating. And even like the two of you were in situations where you were just there.
Yeah. I mean, and Wes, I don't know how it is for you, but I don't know how many times, I would say a day, that people walk up to me and be like, what happened to you? And like, it doesn't bother me. I used to have friends, I'd be like, hey, yo, man, go around, like move around. Right. But like, now it's kind of like, I just want to know what makes you think that it's okay to just come up to people on a random day, you're in a grocery store, and just say, what happened to you? Like, I don't, and it doesn't mean much, but that's not, I don't think that's okay. And I think that us having to deal with that, it kind of reminds you of your situation.
You're reliving your trauma.
Reliving.
And see, that's the thing too. Able-bodied people come up to us and asks us what happened to us, like it's if it's our duty to help portray their own fears upon themselves,
Exactly.
because that's the curiosity. But then it's also, you have lack of humanity to make other people relive their fears.
Yeah.
I mean, or relive their trauma, right? Like
Yeah.
some people, it happened to them in the most tragic way, and you want them to tell you.
Yeah.
That's the oddest thing. I was thinking that, like, when you said they have a lack of humanity, because I would think, like, I was like, hey, Jeff, how are you? You know what I mean? Like, I just want to know, what's up? Good morning. How are you today? What's going on?
Yeah.
Like, why would I even think, especially to a stranger?
Yeah, no, and it's not just a random thing. Like I could go out, like I was at a cigar lounge over the weekend. Ooh. And 3 or 4 people approached me like, hey, you don't seem like a guy that would be, or hey, was it an accident? Did you get shot on purpose? And I'm just like, what is this? Like, am I getting paid to answer these questions? Because
you get shot on purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, it's just mind blowing. And I'm not a rude person, so naturally, you know, I mean, I've even like joked a few times, like, yeah, I fell off a 10-story, but because it's just like, why do you feel like you can do that? And I think people need it, because I know when I was on my feet and I was able-bodied, I never walked up to anybody that had any type of disability and asked them what happened to them, no matter what. I mean, if it was a close friend of mine or whatever, right, I would ask that question. But I think that's something that, like you said, you relive the trauma all the time. And it's just something that I guess I'm going to have to get used to unless my situation changes. And if people are seeing this, just don't, that's not the way to come in and start a conversation with somebody. You know what I mean? In a wheelchair is definitely not the best way, because somebody else might have just had, I've been mentoring a few guys that are newly shot gunshot victims. And I was talking to Wes about this, like, mentoring them has actually brought some more trauma to me. I started having a few rough weeks because I didn't realize how much we really went through. One of the guys is like 6 or 7 months into his injury of a gunshot wound. And I didn't realize how much we went through in that 6 months to like 10 years later. Like, we've went a long way, you know what I mean? And I'm talking to the guy and I'm like, oh, you're still really going through that trauma. Like right now, like it's still very present for you. So I had to actually take a step back from a few of my mentors, the people that I was mentoring, because I was like, yo, I'm not able to listen to some of this traumatic stuff sometimes if I'm not in that space. And I think that's just a very important, you know, even like mentoring other people with trauma, like I got to make sure that I'm good mentally too. I'm not a licensed therapist, you know, so I got to make sure we're good too, you know.
That's a message right there. Like, you've dropped some nuggets that I can't wait to, we do these shorts, like these YouTube shorts. I cannot wait to see the YouTube short from this.
For sure.
You know, you telling people, hey, this is not the way you come up to somebody who is in a wheelchair. You don't know what their injury is. And I was telling Jeff West, that's one reason we wanted to be specific about this is Spinal Cord Injury Awareness Month, because not everybody has a spinal cord injury. Not everyone has gotten their spinal cord injury in the same way. And there are some key things that we all do identify with. And Jeff, this is why Wes and I do what we do. We have to be whole. We don't have to be. I'm not going to say that. It is good for us to be our healthiest selves, because we can only give from what we have.
Exactly.
And
I like that.
You know, like you said, I have to step back because it's triggering me. And this idea, this is why mindfulness and being able to take care of ourselves in a mental way is so important. It doesn't matter if you're standing, sitting, laying down. It doesn't matter what capacity your body is in. We all ruminate on things over and over and over again. Our brains are naturally inclined to be negative because it helps to protect us.
Yes.
But we can reframe our mindset. We can reframe our mind. Like, you came on and you were like, you told your story and you're like, and I'm living a great life right now. You know, like you were able to like move from there. And this is what we want to share with everybody. Like, how do you take care of yourself? Because that is the key to move forward. And you have to say life is going to be great. And, you know,
self-care, Wes, right? Like, going through what we go through, man, we go through so many things with our body that isn't normal to the regular person. So just having that self-care for yourself and like really loving yourself it's gonna overpower so many things by loving just who you are And like you said, Wes, you said something. I watched one of your interviews. You said something about being proud of your disability. And I think that I'm still finding that 10 years later. And I'm glad that you have found that, because I can't always say that I'm proud, because sometimes I look at my legs, I look at myself, and it's so much different than this high school, college football player. But then I look at the life that I have, the air that I still breathe, and the little things, the self-care, the self-love is still there. And having that, after there's people on their feet that are doing good that don't have that self-care, and it's just like, I know you're not happy with yourself. So finding that peace within, man, is literally everything, you know?
Yeah.
No, man, no, I like that you shared that. And I do talk about, finding pride within my disability. But that's just because I know who I used to be. And,
Word.
and our lives are different, and our paths were different, prior. And that could be a reason why you're still trying to grasp certain things. Like for me, I'm like, I know what path I was going down. I know what that was going to get to. Like, I got in a wheelchair. Thank God for me to, like, that's how I feel so much. And the lessons, the growth, I was just talking to someone today, and I was talking about me being, they asked like, what was imposter syndrome? And I was breaking it down. I said, sometimes I still find myself as an imposter, going in rooms because I know my background.
Word. I feel what you're saying.
And I know who I am now. So like, I just don't find myself so relatable to certain people. It's not that the room isn't like, but I'm like, if we play Nipsey today, half of people are gonna look at me like, what is that? Like,
What's
I want
going
people
on?
that can bob their head like, oh, okay, that's you too. Like, that's the culture, that's what I embody. And so sometimes I go into rooms and spaces, and it's like, I don't know, if people can respect me, whether it's being Black, being disabled, being all these different things, and so having that pride of who I am, being willing to accept the adversity that my body is going to face. You know what I mean? Like in my being, and then being willing to know that I'm already imperfect. So like, so for that,
Like
I
that.
think my awareness of me being imperfect excites me.
Yeah.
Because the world sees my differences, so ain't no point in me changing it.
I can't.
You know what I mean?
Right.
All I can do is grow and
like
become
that,
as proud and better, because I'm imperfect. And it's like,
And we all
most people in the world, they're searching perfection, right? And they're searching what normalcy is. And so I always say, like, people, in wheelchairs, there's people with a disability that you can see, we have a gift, because now if we have pride and ownership over who we are, we have defeated all odds, right?
Yeah.
And so many people have not defeated the odds because they put a mask on so that they could feel and look perfect. And our imperfect bodies already put us and separate us from the normal world, right? And so I think that's where my pride is. It's just getting up every day. One, my Black skin, and even taking ownership in that. Like, I didn't take
can't
ownership in
take it
that
off.
so much when I grew up.
It's not
You know what
makeup.
I mean?
It's not makeup. Exactly.
But it was like maybe I masked it in the way I would talk or do things in certain spaces. You know what I mean? To make me be so. But no, now I'm like, I wake up, I got this Black skin, I got this wheelchair, I got these legs that don't work. Like, I'm good. So that's how I look at it.
For sure. To find peace within yourself in this situation, man. I just, like I said, bro, I don't think we applaud ourselves enough. I know a lot of people do, like, but I definitely, man, because me and Wes our injuries are same year, same 60 days, like apart.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, like same physical therapist. Like, it's not an accident that I ran into this guy. You know what I mean? And ever since, like, we've linked up so many times since the injury, and it's always been good, dope energy. And that's why I'm like glad to have people that like Wes, because honestly, I don't know the conversations or the kind of things that I would be getting into outside of my regular life. And when it comes to like talking to mentors, and it's dope I have many able-bodied mentors, but I would say Wes is the only one that shares the same, same capacity as me as far as the wheelchair. And I'm able to call him and talk to him about stuff that I can't call and talk to my other mentors about that have to do with maybe just disability. It might have to do with something with straight calves or medical supplies or something to that aspect. And it's just dope to be able to have that. And I mean, I know he inspires the world, but he inspires people like very close to him as well. You know what I mean? That just I could call his phone whenever and just be like, bro, what you got going on? You know, we'll chop it up, and it's dope to have that. You know what I mean? So, you know,
That
for sure.
is, I got to do this. I'm being silly. He knows I love him. But representation matters. And when we talk about bringing people together in safe spaces, representation matters.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I used to teach Spanish bilingual in South Central LA.
Yeah.
And when I was learning about teaching, you know, English as a second language, you learn better. Research shows you learn better in your native tongue, and then you can translate better in another language.
Okay.
So, like you said, like if you were to call me, and I'd be like, I'll call a medical expert to see if I,
Yeah.
you know, but I have no idea. And that's why that's why we need people. That's why we wanted to talk about spinal cord injury awareness, period. We had another person who's in a wheelchair, but she had a whole different, you know, type of disability.
Exactly.
And it was like, well, no, let's bring it into an affinity. Let's bring it into this niche specifically.
Yeah.
Then we can go out and we can educate others and relate to others on a bigger platform.
Yes.
That's
Well, because I think about spinal. You know, when people refer to spinal cord, most people don't refer to spinal cord injury. First of all, they see a wheelchair user, and that's the term, wheelchair user,
For sure.
right? And so wheelchair user can break down so many different layers. You can have someone that has a spinal bifida, cerebral palsy, MS, and you know, it could be someone that just can't really walk far.
right.
But when you have a spinal cord injury, that is someone whose spine was damaged. That
Yeah.
means that they aren't just a person in a wheelchair. They're a person who bowel and bladder could be different. They're
Right.
a person who can have spasms. Some spasms kick, some spasms sit, right? Like some
Yeah.
spasms you don't even see, but it will be tearing somebody up.
Oh,
But
man.
that's a daily thing for
Yeah.
individuals with spinal cord injury.
For sure.
Their mobility could stop depending on their level of spinal cord. So it's like when people, if you want to be aware of my injury, right?
Yeah.
So I always tell people, like, be aware of my injury level, because that's what I'm consciously, when I meet somebody with a spinal cord injury, I'm not asking them what happened to them. I'm saying, oh, what's your level of injury?
Yeah.
Because now you don't have to be uncomfortable, and I'm not going to sit there and make you uncomfortable by doing things you're unaware of, because I've took time to find that knowledge. I know that the sea level starts very high, so if someone's up there, they could be very, limited in mobility. I've become aware there's a difference between paraplegic and quadriplegic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And people that are quadriplegic have some mobility to walk. So you might see some people like that are in power chairs or in wheelchairs, and maybe they don't have hand function as much as their legs can still physically move, but their spine is still damaged. So again, there's so many layers with spinal cord injury, but to put everyone in one category is the reason why everyone is not being served properly. That's the reason why the airlines is an issue, because when I go fly, the most people that think about wheelchairs, they're like, oh, most people that were rolling in wheelchairs get up and walk on the plane.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, can you walk? I'm like, no, my legs, I have to tell them my legs don't move.
Yeah.
I can't even say I can't walk anymore, because their terminology of can't walk is that I have limited mobility in my legs, but they still move.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, I can't. So again, there are so many layers with spinal cord injury that if someone is around an individual, and sometimes the best way to figure out if a person with has a spinal cord injury is look at their wheelchair. It'll probably be custom. It'll probably be fitted to themselves. The back will be custom. If you start to look, you'll say, okay, that person probably is paralyzed, has some type of injury. And so now you are consciously aware that their process is different than yours.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean? Instead of putting everybody in one category. Because like Jeff mentioned earlier, like he can't call someone and be like, oh man, give me some information on catheters or medical supplies. Or like, I went on, I'm gonna go just kind of left a little bit because we said medical supplies. But I was on bed rest for 2 years for something called pressure ulcer. And that was because I was sitting down too long, right? Now, the causes of pressure ulcers can come as simple as your sheets being wrinkled when you go to sleep.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
that if and you see when people wake up, they got lines on their body.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't have tone and density in your bones, those lines can cause sores.
Yeah.
Those sores can cause infections, and those infections open up. And next thing you know, you having surgery on bones you didn't even think you needed to have surgery on.
Man.
Bone or something. Yeah. Yeah.
So again,
Great.
like all of these things, when people aren't aware, they push individuals with spinal cord injury to live these certain lives, right? That
Yeah.
comes up to their norm instead of actually speaking and tending to the actual injury.
Yeah.
So that's why it's really important to understand the injury, because I know that a person with a different injury that uses a wheelchair could probably do a little bit more because of my awareness. But their awareness of their injury will help you be aware. So again, just becoming aware of spinal cord injury as a whole, understanding there's 300 something thousand people living with it in the United States, that it is something that is probably, I'll say 12, what statistics show about 12,000 people, acquire spinal cord injury a year.
Wow.
Um,
That's a
and
large
Great.
number.
and some of the main causes are violence. I think automobile accidents, work accidents, to name a few.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just again, understand the spinal cord,
No.
understand the individuals and the injury, so then they're not discouraged. Me and Jeff are low injuries, to the most part,
Hmm.
but that's why I do as much as I do.
Yeah.
But
For
I
sure.
won't ask someone that is higher than me to go and climb a rope. Like there's levels to it.
Yeah.
So
For real.
I'm glad you shared that. And then I'm going to ask some questions, Jeff, because we're coming to an end. But
For
I'm going
sure.
to talk from like just an able-bodied mindset. And as a teacher, um, one, when Wes said to know, everybody know, people's spinal cord injuries, I submit like, you guys know your spine, like all my people, able-bodied, disabled, whatever. Know the cervical spine, know your thoracic spine, know your lumbar spine. I
Mm-hmm.
teach in my yoga classes like a flexible spine is a strong spine.
Right.
And more than that, know your body.
Yeah.
Know when your heart rate is up that maybe I'm anxious, maybe I'm nervous, maybe I need to step back and take a deep breath. Don't, if you can, just prevent yourself from acting when you know you're agitated, because you will do something because you're not thinking clearly, because that adrenaline is flowing and you're in fight or flight. But knowing your body can help you take care of your body.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And as Wes was saying, muscles pull on your bones. So you have tendons, you have ligaments, your muscles connect to your bones. The stronger you are, the more tension you put on your skeleton, and you
Mm-hmm.
create stronger bone density.
Yeah.
So I always appreciate, like Wes moving more as we get older. Like, I don't know the percentage, but so many of us will become disabled as we get older because
Mm-hmm.
we just don't have as much muscle, and we fall down, we're going to break a hip, we're going to break something. So if you can move and keep your body strong as best as you can support yourself.
Yeah.
um, Jeff, I do want to ask, there are two things before we close out. One, what do you do to take care of your body now, fitness wise? And then Wes and I are going to, we always like to share, like, what are you listening to and what are you reading to currently in this season of your life? But what do you do to work out? Because I know you come from that. You're
Yeah.
probably all used to that. So
Yeah.
are you able to, do you do, what's going on with you now in
So
that?
yeah, I mean, so it's definitely different than what I was used to before. But I try to work out at least 4 times a week, and sometimes it's more, sometimes it's a little less, just depending on what is going. And we all have our days, right? So where we're not like the gym, but like I try to stay in there because when I am working out, like I literally have a better mentality. You know what I mean? And then so it's about 4 days a week. I try to actually I'm trying to start doing stuff more with my legs now, like when I'm in there with my friends and stuff, like I can't do everything, but they try to kind of help me assist because I know that building that muscle mass in the legs is important. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I stay with that. I tried like a fruit diet. It didn't really work too much for me, but I did try it and I was proud of myself for, we have to count the little wins, right? Like sometimes we're always counting the big stuff, but the little stuff matters too. You know what I mean? So, and
Yeah.
off and on, I've been reading. There's Think and Grow Rich. There's two versions though.
Okay.
There's one, Think and Grow Rich by Dennis Kimbrough. It's a black choice. It's the second one.
Okay.
That I can't remember the
I
first
love
one.
that book. I
Yeah,
love that
yeah.
book.
So, and I got that out of reading E.T. E.T. was talking to his friend and telling his friend to read this book, and it changed his life. So, off and on, I'm reading that. I'm listening to. I listen to 19 Keys a lot on the. Did we talk about that, Wes? 19
On
Keys.
Instagram.
Yeah,
Yeah,
19 Keys. I got
powerful.
him, and I mean, there's a few other podcasts I listen to and just try to stay in touch. I can't right off the head, I can't, but I remember 19 Keys was one. Dr. Africa, Officer Dr. Sabi, and then Dr. Sabi's nephew is I can't remember his name right now, but it won't come to me. But Dr. Sabi's his sisters and which is sabidaughters.com. You can go there and you can get like your CMOS and stuff. But it's him, her, and I can't remember the nephew's name. It'll come to me and I'll send it to you guys. So that's kind of what I'm on, just trying to keep like mind elevated, body staying in like that niche of like mind elevation. I'm trying to even stop kind of some of the music that I listen to because I know how toxic it is to the brain, you know. So
Yes.
that's where I'm at with that, you know.
Yes.
So,
I love that.
Did where can people find you?
Well, right now I'm in Florida. I'm just trying to I took like a mental break from really mentoring, speaking. I just wasn't all the way there to where I could mentor somebody, and my mental was going. So I actually moved down to the Clearwater, Tampa Bay area, and I'll be here for a little while. I wanted to get around the water. I wanted to get some more sun.
I'm an ocean baby. Wes knows I know.
Yeah, they say it like helps really with depression and things of that sort. So I wanted to get around the water, and I wanted to get around people from the islands, and then just some culture actually. So you can find me in Tampa, Bel Air LLC on Instagram, and then Jeff Bel Air on Facebook. And anybody can always hit me, ask me any questions. I'm an open book. So
thank you for that. We're gonna definitely need to have you on again.
Anytime.
For sure. And maybe Wes and I are just gonna have to come to Florida and sit at the ocean with you.
Yeah, I told Wes, me and Wes supposed to tap in here soon too.
Yeah.
I seen him before I left, so I plan on doing a lot of stuff with a lot of people. I'm just kind of getting back into myself, like social media. I'm really trying to use it the proper way. Social media can be such a distraction to us. It can be such a you get on there, it's like its own little world. You can be anybody on there. So I'm just trying to use social media for the right things. And I constantly see myself deleting it and getting it back. But for things like this, I do need it because I want to get my story out and I want to be a help to people. So I just want to find the right way to use these tools and these things that we have and use them correctly to, do better and do good things. So
I submit just your person, your voice, your presence is powerful enough, you know. And so I know we always think I should do things a certain way. I have that too.
Yeah,
that's a standard we're putting ourselves up against,
for sure.
And what you bring is dynamic and healing. So I want to encourage people to follow you and support.
Appreciate it. I definitely appreciate you guys having me. I love the Black excellence that we're trying to bring, the Black awareness, the spinal cord awareness. It's dope. Let's keep it going. And anytime, just give me a call. I'd be glad to come in. I'm glad to be here, and you guys let me share my story. So I appreciate that.
Mr. Wesley Hamilton, any words you want to share? Anything?
You know what, April? I haven't really been reading a lot. I've been working a lot. I've been quiet on social media, but really working. Everyone should know that I moved to LA, but I've been in Kansas City still a lot, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm more in LA. So being on the back end, working, making sure that Disabled But Not Really still has a place in Kansas City, still makes this impact here. And I just, like Jeff said, finding my place on social media when I can, but really just doing the groundwork outside of that. And that's what I've been focused on. So, but Think Like a Monk is still my go-to right now, April.
Think Like a Monk, that's what it was.
It's definitely just that. I find myself just listening to chapters over and over again.
Hmm.
It just is really good.
That's Jay
Really,
Shetty's
really good.
book. That's Jay
Yeah.
Shetty's book. Yeah.
So that one is, yeah. So that's my go-to. But just for anyone that's, that's watching or will listen, just understand that, those that are, using wheelchairs or any mobility device, understand who they are first. Not even what they
Yeah.
understand all of them. Like their story will eventually come out once they're comfortable around you, because they will want you to become aware of them, maybe how things acquire. But it's just it's you don't want nobody to treat you like, treat people like you want to be treated.
Most
Right.
definitely.
And if people aren't going around you every day asking what's your issue, then stop asking somebody else that you can blankly see.
All right, for real though, that's the easiest way to put it, the nicest way to put it, for real.
So you know what I mean, and that's it. That's it. Because
Yeah.
if not, you're gonna be like, hey, what happened to you? Well,
Yeah,
if you tell me what happened to you first, then maybe we can have a conversation.
yeah,
There
for
you
sure.
go. There you go. I appreciate you guys. I haven't been listening to much any lately, but I do want to share this tidbit before we close out. So, Jeff, you mentioned you've been paying attention on what you're listening to,
Mhm.
and music wise. I'll get in the car with, my partner. He'll play something, and my boys, and I'm like, turn it off. I don't want to hear. I'm not a bitch. I'm not a hoe. I'm not
Yeah.
this. Um, so I had this issue with Lil Baby, right?
Mhm.
So I watched the documentary.
I loved it.
Oh my God, right? And
It's love
so, because the kids were like, "It's on Amazon Prime. Give me the password. I need to see
it. I
it."
need a password.
So I was like, "Let me watch this." And it's interesting because I lived in Atlanta for 12 years, and when I moved there, the first time I ever went to Atlanta was during the Olympics. So to see the documentary and to see the history, did you watch it, Wes?
No, not yet, but I'm
You're
watching
gonna
it.
appreciate it to
It'll
watch
make
the
you it'll
history.
make you fall in love with Little Baby if you haven't already.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
Jeff, you
for
said a
sure.
word right there.
No, I'm serious.
And
I like to see that,
right. And when this goes back to what you guys are saying, when you know somebody and you know their story and you know
Mhm.
their history, you see them.
Yeah,
You
Yep.
don't see the outside and judge them, you see them.
yeah,
And it really and that person is a product of their environment, right?
Hmm.
They went in, the government, the city, they displaced so many people. I think the statistic was in Atlanta, like 90%. If you're born in poverty, 90% of people will not get out of poverty.
Mm.
So why do
That's
you
telling.
blame a person for being in their situation?
Yeah,
So I've been listening to some of his stuff, but the stuff.
Look at you!
yeah.
Look at you! Hey, bro.
But no, I mean, and that's good that you are, because like it's life is a perspective. That's like I've been really, before we get off, like perspective has been everything. Like I can look at something and you can look at it and we can see two different things by looking at the same thing. So
Right.
now that I know that and I'm getting older, I have to realize that my perspective might be a little different, but I've tried to switch it and look at other people's perspectives at like, okay, you see it like this, let me look at it through your lens. And when I do that, life gets a little more simpler, I would say.
Oh,
I
you
love
said
it.
some key
I love
stuff.
it.
Yeah, you have. I appreciate you joining us, Jeff. Like I said, we will have you on.
Yeah.
Everybody, please share this with other people. You want these books, we'll get this information to you. And the newsletter is going to be focused on spinal cord injury awareness. And just these things that we shared. When you come up to somebody, don't ask them why they, what happened to them, unless you ask every single person that you
Yeah, yeah,
encounter that.
Yes.
yeah.
Say hi. How are you doing? What's going on? We're all human beings. Let's engage
I
that
mean,
way.
they might change your life.
Yeah.
You
Right.
might,
Might change your
right?
life. For real.
Sure.
100. So have a
Right.
beautiful Sunday, and thank you guys for being live.
All right. Peace, blessings. You guys have a